Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. Hope you guys are all doing well. We've got a fantastic show on the way. But first, I just want to say thanks to NORD VPN, our sponsors here at the Everything is Black and White podcast, who without none of this would be possible. And we've teamed up with them to offer our listeners and viewers an exclusive offer. You can click the link in the podcast description box or go to nordvpn.com/tune to sign up and save your pennies on a plan. It is well worth your time to sign up. You are secure, you are safe, and you're supporting the podcast. Why sign up? I hear you ask. Well, there are a host of benefits. For me, it is the value for money because one subscription can be used across 10 devices. That's your work phone, your personal phone, your tablet, what have you. 10 devices, one subscription. I mean, that is the definition of value for money. The other thing I love about it as well is the way that it keeps your details safe and secure when browsing on public Wi-Fi. So if you're on the bus, the train, you're in a cafe and you're connected to their Wi-Fi, there is always the risk that your details could be compromised. That's your bank details, your passwords, and a load of other stuff as well. But with Nord, you are safe and you are secure. And that for me means a heck of a lot. And look, if you're going abroad as well and you're missing your home comforts and you want to keep with it with all your UK streaming services, then you can click the location back to the UK and make sure you never miss your favorite program. What is not to love about it? It's absolutely fantastic. Very simple to get on board. You download the app, you sign up, and away you go. You're keeping yourself safe, you're keeping yourself secure, and you're supporting the podcast at the same time. And another benefit, and I've already mentioned three, and there are a host of other things to mention as well if we had the time. But the final thing I'm going to mention is a 30-day money-back guarantee. So it's literally no risk. If you don't like it, get your money back. But you will like it because it's a superb app to have on your phone. Keeps you safe, keeps you secure. And once again, you're supporting the podcast. So click the link or go to nordvpn.com/tune to take advantage of an exclusive offer for our listeners and viewers of the Everything is Black and White podcast. Roll the titles. Hello and welcome to the Everything is Black and White podcast. It's time for the match preview, and goodness me, I've been looking forward to seeing this. Newcastle United welcome Barcelona to St James's Park on Thursday evening to kick off their Champions League campaign. Joining me, as always, is John Gibson, and we're going to speak in depth about this beautiful fixture to come along. John, welcome back to the podcast. How are you keeping? Are you well?
A lot better than I was. Barca to come and 3 points in the bag. So, yes, I'm good.
Well, let's start with the 3 points in the bag. Newcastle beating Wolves 1-0 up on Saturday. And John, just how important was it that Newcastle got that victory to kickstart their season?
Oh, wow. It was so important. And wasn't it hard gained? I mean, it was needed, but it was hard gained. We flogged our way through it rather than cruise through it, which is my hope. I mean, they could have scored twice in the first 50 seconds. Pope produced two great saves. Inevitably, all the headlines have been about Walden Mortar, and I can understand that. Centre forwards are the blue-eyed boys. Goals are everything. He got the goal, and it was an excellent header to give us the 3 points. But, let's keep a slight sense of proportion and getting carried away. I mean, it wasn't quite Supermax home debut when you score a hat-trick against Liverpool and you're carried off on your shield, or McQuinn when he got 4 against Leeds. Let's leave some room for improvement for the lad, for goodness sake. I mean, he was getting 10 out of 10s and everything that was possible. But blindly, you would think it was the job done, and it's a job in progress. He'd give us a real hope for the future, and I'm not criticising the lad. He was good, he was excellent, but it was the perfect header, but not perfection in terms of the display. There's more to come, and I'm glad I'm saying that, because it says we haven't reached the ceiling with the lad, and we haven't, although, when you read about him, you suspected we had. And for me, the all-round star performance, getting rid of the blue-eyed boy, scores goal on his debut, having taken over from this very selfish person we shall not name, who's disappeared. The man who was the real star for me was Sandro Tonali. I mean, he is a proper player, isn't he? I mean, he's got a bit of everything. He's quick, he's athletic, he puts out fires, he creates, he's got a bit of everything. I wasn't going to name Isaac, but I am now because he was said to be our best player. And I think this fella's now our best player. Tonali is our best all-round player. He's just not playing in a position where you gain all the headlines. They're gained by centre forwards. But from the ashes of his career, when he had the 10-month out with the betting probe, the boy has come back and is a magnificent player. Everybody talks about centre forwards and people want them. Why they're not queuing up for Tonali, and I'm delighted they're not. But why they're not, I don't know, because they must be blind, because the man is absolute quality, and he pulled us through when we were needed, in my opinion, against Wolves.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant, Sandro Tonali. And we went in depth on the Monday show about just how good he is, and we seem to be doing that every single week. And Thursday is a game which you think he will absolutely relish, going up against Europe's very best and showcasing exactly what he's got. In terms of the win against Wolves, you are 100% spot on. We can't get carried away. It's one goal for Nick Valdemare, but just as important for Newcastle to get 3 points ahead of Barcelona, it was very important, I felt, for Valdemare to get on the score sheet and open his account, because there were some doubts about him inside and outside of the Newcastle United fan base. A lot of money paid for one man who's had one prolific season, who signed on a free last summer for Stuttgart and has now cost the best part of £70 million. And there's only one way to shut up the doubters, and that's to score on your debut, and even better to score the winning goal for Newcastle United in a result that hopefully can kickstart their season. And we always talk about momentum on this podcast, John, and hopefully that result against Wolves is exactly what it's going to do. It's going to start Newcastle building momentum into what is a very, very, very busy run of games coming up. Let's listen to Eddie Howe, who was asked after the Wolves game about the importance of getting all 3 points and then allowing Newcastle United to look ahead to Barcelona.
Well, that's why today's win was so important, because there is no other noise other than that game, which I think if we hadn't won today, that wouldn't have been the case. It would have been slightly negative going into what should be a really positive game. So I think that all dissolves and we can just really focus entirely on this one game. For me, it's a magical game. It's the type of game that you're desperate to be a part of, desperate to hopefully represent the club really well, and I think that's our challenge. Of course, there's connections with Sir Bobby, which we fully embrace, and that's what makes it such a special fixture.
Now, obviously, he's mentioned there, John, the connection to Sir Bobby Robson, and we'll speak about Sir Bobby in a moment. Eddie Howe's spot on with everything else that he said in his answer there. Because going into this game against Barcelona, we don't need to tell people how good they are. I mean, they beat Valencia 6-0 and had most of the stars on the bench. That's how good they are. It would have been slightly negative, as Eddie Howe said there, going into this game. We could have talked about how good the atmosphere will be and how good XYZ are and the chances that we might get against Barcelona to upset the odds. But he's right. The feeling is so much better having picked up 3 points against Wolves, and that's the bottom line. We needed that win, not just to pick up the first domestic victory, but to send us into Thursday feeling that little bit more optimistic.
It's took the pressure off Newcastle because they won, and it took the pressure off Valdemare because he's got his first goal. So there's a lot of pressure being released. If we'd been sitting here with a 0-0 draw against Wolves, or worse still, we'd lost to Wolves, who, if they'd taken one of their chances, or Pope had been less proficient early on, could have been the result. Then we would be all doom and gloom, wouldn't we, going into this game? So it was absolutely essential that we got that win, and we go into this game with some sort of optimism. Talking about Valdemare, and we took the pressure off him, etc., etc. I find it ironic and so undeserved that we're actually in the same position now as we were last season regarding centre forwards. We've got one centre forward, Voldemort, and no backup. Isula, who's very raw and very inexperienced, is not a Champions League backup, but he's the only one we've got. And last season it was Isaac with Callum Wilson regularly injured. We're back because of the injury to Wissa to having. We're good all over when you look all over the park, Andrew, we're double stocked in every position. We've got two for every position, bar centre forward with Wissa injured. And I've got a huge sadness for Wissa because he was so thrilled to join us and get Champions League soccer at the age of 29. And that meant so much to him. And yes, there'll still be Champions League games to come with him. But this is the biggest of the lot. Barcelona at home is the biggest game of the lot, bigger than PSG away, simply because it's at St James's Park, and he's going to miss it. And you feel, well, while I feel sorry for him, I feel sorry for us, by the way, because it would have been much better. The only weakness we've got going into this game is not having two centre forwards, which we tried so hard on transfer deadline day to have.
Yeah, it is a massive frustration, but we know what Eddie Howe is like. He'll not be dwelling on that. He knows the hand is being dealt, and he'll just get on with it. And going back again to the points we made about Voldemort, that man will be going into Thursday with a bounce in his step, so much confidence after getting the goal against Wolves. Eddie Howe also said there, John, that it's a magical game, and these are the nights that you want to be involved with, whether you're a player, a reporter, just a fan lucky enough to get a ticket. These are the kind of games in which the Champions League is built upon. St James's Park, under the lights, Barcelona, one of the best sides in Europe, coming to visit. And it is a magical game. We've had previous games. Everyone thinks back to Barcelona coming here and losing 3-2 in 1997. And it is one of those fixtures which always really kind of warms the heart.
Oh, I mean, all last season when we were striving to make the Champions League, we spent the whole season striving to get games like this one. Not the next one against Union or one particularly against Benfica or Bayern Leverkusen. Yes, they're big matches because they're Champions League matches. But Champions League in Barcelona, doesn't it go hand in hand? I mean, possibly the only fixture that would rival it is Real Madrid coming to St James's Park, and who knows that won't happen. So this is what it's all about, without a shadow of doubt. We had the big night a couple of years ago with Paris Saint-Germain 4-1. By Jove, wouldn't we take that again? But I think this will be slightly different. I mean, with hindsight, that Paris Saint-Germain side was a bunch of egotistical superstars resting on their laurels, and a couple of them, Mbappe included, sort of wanting to get away, and I suspect wasn't putting 300% in, but was putting 3% in on our day, and we didn't care, and it was a wonderful, wonderful win. This Barca will be a different side. And by the way, Paris Saint-Germain on the last game of the mini-league season will be a different side as well, because they've got all the stroppy guys out the door. This is a full frontal, but it's set up beautifully because we're at our best in a night game, under the lights, the crowd as passionate as it's possible to be, us up for it, going after them like a dog at broth. That is the sort of game that brings out the best in us. And we will have to beat our best, but it's wonderful to anticipate, isn't it? Wonderful to anticipate.
Looking back at that PSG game, it seemed like the stars of PSG underestimated the power that St James's Park can have. We know it was a fantastic atmosphere, and that really fueled Newcastle United's players. Do you think there's a risk, even though they've played in many of the world's greatest arenas, that Barcelona could make the same mistake?
I would hope they did, but I suspect they won't, but I would hope they did. And the reason why they get caught out is not because they can't handle games like that. It's because they don't expect it from Newcastle. With respect to see Newcastle is not regular Champions League participants, so we're going to go there. Oh, it'll be their big night, their cup final. We'll have to douse them for a quarter of an hour, and then it'll be a relative stroll. Then they go into the bear pit at St James's Park, and a team whose adrenaline is flowing 100% one way, and they go, whoops, what's this? They find it differently. But as I've just said, I think these Barca stars will have a different attitude to the Paris Saint-Germain stars of 2 years ago. When they were faced with that sort of avalanche from us, they almost said, well, if you want it that much, you can have it, sort of thing. They didn't produce the resilience. I mean, I wonder if my pappy's shirt ever went to the dry cleaners afterwards. I mean, they could hang it up for the next game. There wasn't a lot of sweat on it. And I don't think Barca will do that, any of the Barca players. So I think it will be a test, not beyond us in any way. It's what we want. There's no question about that. It's what we want. And we've got it on the upbeat rather than the downbeat, having had a win. So, bring it on.
Yep, certainly so. And just looking back at that 3-2 victory back in 1997 with Tino Asprilla getting the hat-trick, I was watching the highlights back the other night, and obviously the atmosphere is fantastic. And Tino's finishing is absolutely sublime too. Wonderful headers and a nice penalty as well. But it's all about Keith Gillespie, isn't it? And he had the game of his life. And that second cross for Tino's hat-trick is up there with Terry Hibbert's pass for Supermac in the semi-final of the FA Cup. It's up there with Joe Willock's pass against Spurs for Alexander Isak. I mean, he runs from inside his own half, beats the fullback, and when you think he's ready just to sit down on his backside because he's given everything, he puts in this absolutely beautiful cross, and Tino leaps and puts it into the back of the net. I mean, John, what do you remember about that night?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. Tino Asprilla and Keith Gillespie never played better for Newcastle than they both did that night. And by the way, what's interesting, Andrew, and I don't know if you realise this, it's 28 years almost to the day since that game. September the 17th, 1997 was the 3-2, and September the 18th, 2025 is this one. It is 28 years to the day, bar one day, and that is quite amazing. But that match was incredible, absolutely incredible. I mean, Gillespie, quite funny, and this may make one or two people smile, but I think on his day, Jacob Murphy can do that, He's blisteringly quick. He can cross a ball on the run very, very quickly and first time, unlike perhaps Gordon, who will check back and then go again. Torment to pieces, Gordon. I mean, I'm a huge fan. But Murphy's underestimated. He did 23 goals he was involved in last season, assists and scoring, and it was a beautiful cross for the header against Wolves. He can whip balls in like that on a good day. He had the best season in his life, and he was 30. Best season in his life last season. And what do? We still look for an upgrade. We spend 55 million on an upgrade. Elanga gets his place in the team. Murphy still comes back, gets his place back, and then produces the winning cross. Because while the German naturally gets the headlines, without the cross being that good, the German doesn't get his header. Without Gillespie's cross being that good, Asprilla doesn't get his header. You need the delivery as well as the finish. But Gillespie, I mean, I remember sitting there. It was tingling the whole game. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing because we were 3-0 up in an hour. It was 3-2 at the final. And by the way, if it had played another 10 minutes, it would have been 3-3. And if it had played another half an hour, we would have lost. They were coming back like a train, but that doesn't matter. The final score is all that matters. But Gillespie had Sergi, who was the Spanish left back. He had him on toast all night. I mean, he destroyed him all night, and his crosses were absolutely terrific. And Asprilla, I mean, he had played in all the big games for Parma and in Italy as well as with Colombia. I mean, he was a superstar. There was days where he was totally indifferent, and then there was other days like he was against Barca, and this was one of his days. But both headers, I mean, the penalty was definitely brought down. And both the headers come from Gillespie, who was just tortured, their guy. I mean, he went off with a twisted sock. He couldn't find where Gillespie was. It was a wonderful evening, and I would take that all over again, by Jove I would, with Murphy doing the crossing and Waldemar doing the heading.
We'll take it. That leads us nicely on to the first question about the selection on Thursday. Anthony Gordon is available to be picked. He is suspended domestically, but not for this game. I think you've already given your answer about the right wing. Is it Murphy? Is it Alanga? For me, like John, it is Murphy. I think given his performance on Saturday against Wolves, where only Sanchez and Tonali bettered him, you can't drop Jacob Murphy. And then I think as the game gets maybe stretched later on, then you bring on the speed of Alanga and that energy. On the left wing, I think Harvey Barnes needs a sustained run of games, which sounds daft because he's kind of had that, but people are starting to question his end product. And I think as soon as you take him out of the starting 11, I think he will go back kind of 3 steps, which is not what we want. But for the good of the team, I think it has to be Anthony Gordon on Thursday, because that speed is going to be crucial, because counter-attacking football is how Newcastle are going to get the better of Barcelona. So Gordon for me on the left, Murphy on the right. Same for you?
Oh, totally. I mean, Barnes has had a bit of a run. For me, Harvey Barnes flatters to deceive. I've seen him quite a bit recently, as we all have. I mean, in succession, because of the situation with Gordon. And he flatters to deceive. When he scores goals, that covers a multitude of sins, because they are the ultimate thing for any footballer who's an attacker. You've got to score goals, and he can do that wonderfully well. He's not an assists guy. When does he give assists? When are the assists come from? And I thought he was so moderate against Wolves as to be untrue. I mean, Gordon has to come back. And also, this is a game for stars, you know. Barcelona, it's the night when the stars come out in the sky over St. James's Park. We've got a star who's now available, Gordon. And you don't even have a second thought about playing him. You play him, and you're relieved that you're able to play him, because he's very necessary to us. It's a shame that he has to go out straight away again for the Bournemouth game before he's free completely. But yes, you for me, you have Murphy on one side and you have Gordon on the other, and the centre forward naturally picks himself. And I think probably the rest of the team picks itself.
Yeah, we'll run through the rest of it. It will be Nick Pope in goal, Kieran Trippier at right back, Fabian Schär, Dan Burn at centre back, left back will be Tino Livramento. Hopefully he can continue his great form of the start of the season that he's had. Across the midfield 3, it is Bruno, it is Tonali, it is Joe Linton. As we said, the 2 wingers there with Waldemar up top. I mean, the centre-backs, John, they had an absolute battle on Saturday against Wolves' new striker, and they're going to have a battle again on Thursday against Robert Lewandowski. I mean, his goal-scoring record for a 37-year-old is unbelievable. He scored 2 off the bench against Valencia on Sunday. And, you know, a 37, you may be thinking, feet up, look forward to retirement, but he shows no sign of slowing down.
Well, he doesn't. He doesn't start now, you know. He never starts now for Barca. He comes on because he's 37. He doesn't start anymore. He comes on as a sub. But what a sub to have. And he scored 2. I mean, I wish we had him as backup to our German. I mean, goodness gracious me. Yes, he's a bit like Vardy, only better. He's at a huge age. He's been one of the great all-time goal scorers, and he can still do it. The game's ragged by the time he comes on against Valencia. It's 4-0. What a time to bring on somebody of his quality, because they are depressed and they're also ripped open. And what's he do? He scores 2 goals. But I mean, recently, Lewandowski and Rashford haven't started. I know Rashford did the other night because Jamal was out. And he may get in against us from the start. Lewandowski may not. The difficulty is going to be that Jamal, one of the greatest player without a shadow of doubt, I suspect won't play. But in a way, Andrew, I hope he does, because I like seeing all the great players at St James's Park. I hope he does and we win, but I hope he does because he is outstanding. And you want to see the world's greatest footballers in real life, don't you? Not just on the telly. And so I would like to see him play. I suspect that he won't, because there's this huge row with Spain giving him injections to play with a groin, which kept him out against Valencia and might keep him out against us. The reshuffle might see Rashford get a start. The interesting thing as well, if I was Eddie Howe and I was taking Gordon to one side, I would say, Gordon, hey, come here, Anthony. You show Thomas Tuchel and Rashford who's the best outside left in an England shirt, because they're both on the pitch. Rashford is the guy that's challenging him for the left wing shirt for England. So they're both on the pitch. So come on, Anthony. We know they are best. You're better than him. Show it on Thursday night.
Yeah, well, the Barcelona team's going to be fascinating because, as you mentioned there, Yamal will be likely to be missing, and there is, as you mentioned, a bit of bad blood there between Barcelona and the Spanish football authorities. And I agree. Eddie Howe said it as well after the Wolves game that you want to be playing against the best, and this lad is the best, even at such a young age, and you want to see him at St James's Park under the lights. And it is unfortunate, but at the same time, you take the little bit of advantage you can get at him not playing is a boost for Newcastle United. I do think that Robert Lewandowski might actually start though on Thursday, and he's only played 48 minutes so far this season. He had a muscle injury at the beginning of the campaign, which has probably limited his the time he's been able to get onto the pitch. I think he might start on Thursday.
Why?
Why? I think he will do. I think
But why?
Because they've
done what they've done without him all season, bringing him off the bench. Yes, he scored 2, and that makes you think, why not? But why not start? I mean, I'm not suggesting he will, but why not start with a team that started against Valencia and went 4-0 up?
Well, they had Rafinha on the bench, had quite a few big names on the bench.
Rafinha will come back. He'll come back. He was only on the bench because he was a naughty boy and turned up late for training on the Friday. And Blake, who's the manager, that's what he does. If you turn up late for training, you get dropped. But he come on at half time and scored twice. I think he's got more chance of starting than Lewandowski.
Well, we'll wait and see. I just think
of course.
The game is kind of tailor made. For him. He did start the majority of games last season. Of course, he's of course getting older. But be interesting to see that team sheet when it does indeed come out. I mean, on terms of I guess the main thing people like to talk about, John, is the connection with Sir Bobby Robson, and that's what makes it such a magical game. What do you have to say about that? Because I mean, we've probably gone over it plenty of times in the past, but Sir Bobby Robson will be at the forefront of pretty much everyone's mind on Thursday.
Of course he will. Of course he will, because he's a Geordie lad. He's a Newcastle United supporter. He managed Barcelona. He won a couple of trophies with Barcelona. He only managed them for one season. He was there for 2, but the second one was as chief scout almost. But he won a couple of trophies, and he signed Ronaldo for Barca, the centre forward who he'd had in Holland. And what a player he was. And he signed him for Barca, and he went on to be absolutely miraculous. And he was such a wonderful, wonderful man. And you know what he means and what he's meant to the whole world was emphasized when he tragically passed away, and we had the service of remembrance at Durham Cathedral. And in the congregation was Mourinho, who had been his number 2 at Barcelona, and Pep Guardiola, who had played for him at Barcelona. They were here, came all the way to pay special tribute to Bobby Robson, and that was his standing in football. And Barca was probably the biggest club on the world stage he managed, and Newcastle United were the club he loved the most on the world stage that he managed. So his two clubs, you can say, are playing at St James's in the shadow of his statue. And we'll all remember Bobby because we love to remember Bobby because he epitomises everything we like about ourselves, Geordies. I think Bobby epitomises all that. So he will hang over the match, but in the most positive of ways and in the most loving of ways, not a wet blanket, but an inspiration.
Yeah, indeed. And in terms of Newcastle United, winning this game, because that's what we all want, how do they go about it, John? Is it sit back and absorb as much pressure as possible, then hit them on the counter, or is it the high press?
I think you hope Lamal takes about 6 of their side under the injury list with him, and it's not 100% as we're talking that Yamal is ruled out. But I can't. Groins are very dodgy things, and whether a risk would be taken that could boomerang on Barcelona for the rest of their season is a different kettle of fish. It's going to be very difficult. I mean, let's not pretend any other. Of course, it's going to be very difficult. Barcelona is a slight upgrade on Wolves, and we found Wolves tough. So, of course, it's going to be very difficult. The best thing we've got going for us is it's a night game. It's under the lights, and there's a passionate crowd on our side, and we will be up for it. That's all that we've got in our favour. But let's start talking man for man and comparing them and say who's slightly better, because we might get slightly depressed in certain situations. It is an uphill task. And, we look at Barcelona and we all remember Tino and we remember 3-2, and so we should. But we've played them 3 times since in the Champions League, and lost all 3. Not drawn one, lost all 3. So that's how tough it is, and it's tough. But yes, one-off results happen. The difficulty is getting it all together. We got a wonderful one-off result against Paris Saint-Germain a couple of years back, 4-1. But I think, if my memory serves me right, that was the only Champions League game we won, in the whole competition. So, you can do it in a one-one. You can do it in a one-off, like us beating Barca. But sustaining it over 8 matches and qualifying for the next stage, etc., is a big ask. And if we lost with honour against Barca, and the with honour is very important, there's still 7 games against opposition, which outside of Paris Saint-Germain is nowhere near Barca standards, for us to still have a good Champions League.
Yeah, indeed. And actually, there's been Opta have released their research in terms of how likely it is that Newcastle United make it through to the next stage. And they've got Newcastle United with a 32.7% chance of getting through to the next phase, 16.1% chance of getting through to the semi-final, 7.2% chance of getting through to the final, and a 3% chance of winning the Champions League, which is slightly optimistic, but we can all dream. But you look at the fixture card that have been dealt, John, and you mentioned it there, other than PSG in Barcelona, there will be games that Newcastle United fancy themselves in, and I think they will, not publicly, but definitely in-house, have ambitions of getting through to the next stage, and they should.
Of course, why take part? Why take part if you don't believe in yourself enough to believe you can get through? We're not taking part as sacrificial lambs in Europe to make up the numbers. I mean, we're bookended by 2 of the best sides in the competition. We start with Barcelona and finish with Paris Saint-Germain. But the other 6 matches, we've got a realistic chance in all 6. Of course we have, and we've got to think that way while not giving up on the other 2, isn't that? But I mean, the next match where we go over to Brussels to play Union, we've got a real chance of winning there. So it's not a foregone conclusion, and it's not knockout, so it doesn't mean, oh dear, we'll lose to Barca. I mean, if you go back far enough in Europe, they were knockout. You lost a game and that was it. Or you lost over 2 legs and that was it. And not so now, and quite rightly not so, because when you've worked so hard over a full season to make it, you deserve more than 2 games in that competition. You've earned the right to have other games. So while I don't give up at all on Barcelona, yes, you look at the other games and you can make a case out in all the other games for us at least not losing that particular game all the way through to Paris Saint-Germain away. So, yes, I'm quite optimistic about the programmes overall. All that's against us is the most obvious, which is you play so many games, it's untrue. You're going Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday. And that hammers any squad, and we're better equipped to deal with it. But heaven forbid, we just need an injury to our centre forward, and then we know what time of day it is. But let us not even think about that, because we have no wish to. And as I say with Wissa, what a shame, because it for him and also for us, because not only is he missing now, but he's going to be missing with the African Cup of Nations for a long while. So, until the new year, we're going to see him very fleetingly, aren't we?
Indeed. I'm going to get your score prediction or your result prediction in a moment, John. I did ask viewers and listeners how they were feeling ahead of Thursday, and Jamie has got back in touch to say I'm optimistic. Andy says Barca are one of the favourites for the competition. All pressure is on them. We'll give them a tough game, and I think we'll get some good opportunities in behind with our pace. I can see us sneaking a win. Johnny says, I reckon it will be 2-2, a barnstorming game, and I will take that. Number 16, though, is less optimistic and says, I can't say it, to be honest. Wolves was odd. Could have been 4-0. Could have been behind early. Didn't really control the game or move the ball with pace enough. Needs something different to give Barca a game. And Sam simply says, no, in terms of feeling optimistic. Or can they? Rather, the question was, can Newcastle upset the odds as it did against PSG and beat a European giant? Sam not feeling it there. To be honest, John, I'll take a point against Barcelona. I would love a win. I'd love a repeat of PSG a couple of years ago, but it's a totally different team, totally different challenge that we're facing. And even though Newcastle United have improved, Barcelona are a better side than what PSG were. And I don't think they will underestimate the arena they're coming into, which is what set PSG back straight away. Look, if Newcastle can get that high press and start with all that energy, and then when they need to sit back and then hit them on the counter, they've got the players, they've got the game plan, they've got the manager to get that win. However, I just don't see it, unfortunately. So I'm going to go for a draw. I don't think it'll be a draw in which we're grateful by the end of it for a point. I think we'll be in it throughout the game. But for me, a point is a good foundation to start this Champions League campaign.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. My head tells me that Newcastle are going to lose with honour. My heart tells me we're going to get a draw. I can't go quite as far as a win, but I'm quite happy to be persuaded about a win. But I mean, I would settle for a draw. And the guy that said 2-2, I could see that as possibly being correct. I don't think it's going to be a goalless draw, that's for certain. Although we've kept 3 clean sheets out of 4, I don't think we'll do it against Barca. I mean, a very small advantage we have, and I think it is very small, is both the manager and the coach are banned from the touchline because they got suspended for yellow cards last season in the competition, and they've got to sit up in the stand. Now, I don't think with the modern technology, the way you sit up in the stand and keep in touch with your dugout in terms of subs and in terms of other things, that it makes that much difference it might have done in the old days at all. But it's a little advantage. You haven't got Hayflick running up and down the touchline going berserk and cheering them up. You've got Mad Dog doing that for us. So it's a tiny advantage, but and Yamal would be another advantage. But I would settle for a draw, and it would be very honourable. But if we play well and come off with our heads held high, with 7 more Champions League games to come, it's not all or nothing time yet. That'll come possibly at Paris Saint-Germain on the last day of the group stage. But I think we can get that draw, and I thought the guy saying 2-2 would be about right. I think both sides will score. And I'll settle for 2-2 right now, but if we do lose, let us lose honourably. Let us be in the game the whole game. Let them know they've had a toughie. And let's move on.
Yeah, Well, we'll wait and see what happens. Thank you very much for tuning in. Do get into the comments. Do it thumbs up. Do it subscribe on YouTube. Do leave us a rating and review on the audio only platform. And remember to take advantage of your NORD VPN offer, which is in the podcast description box, where you can get one subscription across 10 devices. It's a brilliant bit of software to have on your phone. It keeps you nice and safe while browsing public Wi-Fi. And for myself and John, we'll be back on Friday morning, hopefully talking about a Newcastle United victory, even though both of us just had a draw. And we'll look ahead as well to Bournemouth on Sunday. Until then, have a good week.